name is Lauren Scott. I'm with the CAE Program Management Office. We're excited to have all of you here at our January forum. And again, Happy New Year. We have professors and a team from University of Louisville who is going to be delivering our second presentation. And their topic is the role of centers of academic excellence in democratizing cybersecurity. So Dr. Losavio, I'll let you turn it over to your team if you want to do introductions, but thank you for joining us today. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to you and your team.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lauren. I guess first, just our crew, both makes it easier on me because I can always shuffle it off onto them. But what we have found after some 25 years, when we finally got to know each other in different colleges even, is that if we start working together, we are able to score big projects that in the past we just couldn't compete for. So first I'd like to introduce Dr. Sharon Carrick, who is a vice president for digital transformation at U of L, as well as a member of the educational leadership department at the university. Dr. Kerrick, want to give us a quick shout out here?
Hey, Happy New Year to everyone. Nice to see you guys. Glad to be part of the team.
Thank you, Dr. Sharon. And then we have Jeffrey Sun, who is also, I think he's an associate dean in the education college as well as in the educational leadership department. He is also not just have his doctorate in education, he's also a brother lawyer, which brings a special spice to his work. Dr. Sun?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me here. We're excited to talk to all of you about some of the things that we've been doing. It's been exciting to work with a team of people. You know, when we think about research and rolling out projects, a lot of times we're usually small groups and very solitary. This has not been the case, as we will share with you today.
And we'll expand on that as we go through the various projects. Dr. M, who is in the College of Business, Computer Information Systems. I want to just say, hey, quick one. There we go.
Hi, Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to join this excellent conversation. I think this forum is very, very stimulating. Looking forward to the great presentation and discussion. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Dr. M. I'd also just like to give a quick shout out to colleagues of the CIE community here in Kentucky, where we actually gave this talk a couple of months ago, and they didn't burn us out. There's Ali Yarali from Murray State, who is the godfather, for lack of a better term, of the CAE community in Kentucky. Ali, you want to say hello?
Hi, how are you, everybody? Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, we started basically our designation in 2019, but COVID did not allow us to do a lot of this stuff. But yes, last few months ago, we had a conference, Kcfc, Kentucky Cybersecurity Forensic Conference. It was very successful, and I'm so excited that was a sort of, a first annual one, and hopefully it's going to pave the way for future. And I'm counting on U of L to take perhaps the responsibility of the second conference. I'm sorry.
I think Dr.
I just don't want
is
to
ideally positioned to do that.
Yeah, I just don't want us, MSU, Murray State University, be the one to go for, this. It should be sort of alternate. So create a sort of, collaboration for CAE community in Kentucky. Thank you very much, Dr. Losavio.
All right, thank you, Dr. Yara. And I think we have Machika McLean from the University of the Cumberlands, which is one of the schools. Dr. McLean? She'll get back with us, but it's okay. Anybody else from Kentucky who is part of the CAE community there, just to say hello? All right, well, there we good. In that case, let me see if I can share my screen and sort of, dare I say it, kind of lay out what we're going to try to do. And this is our fancy idea, democratizing cybersecurity. And you see in the list below, we have a number of other colleagues from the departments. We also have Richard Mighty from Kentucky State University. who's collaborating with us on doing work in the Eastern District. We feel that, and as Dr. Kerrick, Dr. Sun will explain further, collaboration between institutions is what's going to give us the strength. Now, the idea is, what can the Centers of Academic Excellence do for democratizing cybersecurity? Well, what does that even mean? The ideas behind democratic process generally focus on that it works by a consensus among the people. There is a freedom of action that's more extensive than in many other regimes, and there's a treatment of equality among people. All of this occurring in computing. I would submit that that can be, even as we have moved computing into everybody's back pocket, those are still things that are not fully developed as they might be. I think the key challenge we have is that we, the United States, and our allies are democracies under the rule of law. Those attacking us are less and less so. And just from colleagues in those countries, it's just the screws are tightening. So the question comes up, is it relevant? Does our status as democracies change how we respond to cyber threats? If it doesn't change how we should respond, then how are we currently adequate in our responses? But if it does change the requirements for our operations, how can we respond so as to provide greater protection? This is something I think we can work on, certainly in terms of a topological analysis, but what's the threat space for democracies? Well, we tend to be heterogeneous. We're very different in how we live and work and act. We're very distributed, which creates problems if you're trying to create any kind of bastion security. And we are open. We're open society for the exchange of information, which makes it difficult. I mean, so the question comes, how can we possibly address these vulnerabilities against the vectors of attack, which in fact seek to exploit these things? So I'd like to do this, to the extent we have the time, to do this as a colloquium. You're willing to make comments as we go along, and rather than use chat, you can just speak up and say, well, I have this thought, because how do we address these vulnerabilities? I would submit that if we do not, it will not go well for us. And what's particularly interesting is that we were talking in the wilderness for a long time about this, but the past 2 years, the confluence of the COVID pandemic and the exploitation of ransomware tools, which as Dr. Ghiyoung outlined with his set of tools, have become, for lack of a better term, highly democratic. In other words, anybody, any script kiddie can get a kit and start doing serious attacks against people. And the sophisticated ones are making a lot of money. If we look at traditional public safety, it involves us, the citizens, the people. Then it involves the police, and then it involves the courts and corrections. Our traditions of cybersecurity tend to be point source, going to looking first at IT solutions and IT support people. We submit that we have to expand public and civic engagement. If we're going to be successful, we have to democratize cybersecurity. Small organizations, local law enforcement, and the citizens themselves. When we first began a pilot project back in 2017 with the support of the NSA, we didn't realize how open local police departments themselves were to attacks. We got that from the police who were then working with us. When Vermont had to deploy its National Guard to help out a hospital that had been attacked, I think that represents part of this tipping point, where now we're in an increasingly vulnerable space. And attacking hospitals, especially during a pandemic, shows I mean, they're criminals, so they're going to be heartless. But look at the people they put at risk. About 4 weeks ago, the first lawsuit was filed on behalf of a dead child, alleging that the hospital did not have adequate cybersecurity protections against the ransomware attack, which shut down all the monitoring systems in the hospital where this infant was being treated. I think it's going to get worse. I think we're going to look at more vulnerabilities, greater disruption. And how do we go with this? For whatever we're planning, is it scalable for the United States? And then for other countries? There's a lot of democratization in the technology that's going on. But for us to make it more inclusive, to create opportunities and greater accountability, we have to say, this is what we need done. So we took, generally speaking, law enforcement under democratic institutions focuses on engagement and consensus from the citizens and accountability for their actions. If you don't have that, you don't have effective policing. What you often will see is what we're seeing in the United States now with all of these shootings of unarmed individuals. The management of these police departments doesn't care enough to see that their people are adequately trained and supervised. And then people who don't need to die, die. And then what we're seeing now is that the population is responding to that, making it a political issue. We think a key component for cybersecurity is community engagement. And just if you think things aren't getting even weirder, there has now been a spate of articles that have been suggesting that we use, do you remember from history class back in 5th grade, talking about letters of marque and reprisal in the early days of the Revolutionary War? Well, they're suggesting we take those permissions to empower freestanding counter cyber attack specialists to go after the people who are going after people and institutions in the United States. I think that's not necessarily a good idea. Vigilantism always seems to go wrong. What is it, that guy, the bounty hunter? You know, not so good, not so good. So what we've been working on are a series of transformative projects funded by the Department of Defense, funded by our host today, the National Security Agency of the Department of Defense, and now tailing over into Department of Homeland Security, which looked and said, maybe there's something here for all of us. So I would like Dr. Kerrick, who actually is the winner in our competition. She has scored more funding and done a more extensive operation across disciplines than anybody else. And you know, I maybe hate her a little bit for it, but it's important enough that I think what she has done can be a foundation for all of us. So Dr. Kerrick, tell us what's going on.
Well, I think, and I think all the CAEs have really been, collaborative in this effort for us to work together. And I'll give credit to all the CAEs, for the way that the ingenuity and the way that it's now coming together more for the CAEs to work together and utilize. And that's been how we've been working to bring forth this kind of modularity of product, if you will, that then can be put in open source, as we just talked about with Dr. Fu's presentation and the good work that he's done, that we can now leverage instead of all reinventing the wheel every time. And that's what we're doing as well with, partners from all over the country, that University of North Florida, University of Arkansas, Little Rock, University of Seattle, different organizations that are helping us to create these modules, but also then tying it in with workforce skills, such as certificates from IBM, Microsoft, Google, the badges, the micro credentials that give the Google Analytics, or excuse me, the analytics certificates or the artificial intelligence certificates. So we're tying those things together to give the workforce credentialing that people need. But the bigger broad scope is, how are we helping the citizens in the community? And again, I think having the repository and Clark's repository as an open source whereby, again, we can all help each other and not reinvent the wheel. But we're also utilizing that as our train the trainer. So then, again, kind of leveraging off Dr. Fu's comments about, can we train a beginner? We can take these modular approaches and take some of these 24 modules that we've created and say, we can take the the IT basics or the coding or the forensics and, take it to the junior high or high school. And then, try to plant that seed for the citizens to then understand a little bit more and get a little bit of interest, not just from a workforce development, but also from these students up and coming, so that they're engaged in the process, so that we also are building our workforce, so that we'll build more talent and skill set in the cyber realm. We're also partnering with a lot of community centers where, again, we're doing train the trainer with our CAEs, so that, again, across the state of Kentucky and the region with our other partners that are CAEs, we're having them sit through these classes free. And then we're building a network of train the trainers that might be at historical Black colleges. And again, they're reaching out and their obligation. And once we put them through these courses free, and we're supporting them with success coaches, that then their obligation is then they must enable and arm one of their community centers with free training so that they can support. And again, kind of that equalizer or that inclusivity, or again, that more is better philosophy. It doesn't help from a perspective of how do we fend off attacks, but it certainly helps that we can be more alert and start to, bring people into the knowledge realm to help us to build a higher level skill, because we'll have more and more people that actually have knowledge about all these various different topics and areas that we have lack of knowledge or we don't have the higher level expertise that we're wanting and needing across the country. So with that, I'll end, but you can see kind of, we got this one level of explorer level, this other level of practitioner level, this other level of professional level, and then these all lead into either associate, bachelor's, or graduate level, or they're just certificates that are non-credit bearing and not academic, but they're workforce skills. And again, we're doing it, at the junior high and high school level, so that, again, train the trainer at teacher level, and then also train the trainer at these community centers in our communities, so that they can actually have some products and services for workforce skills where they might not have the constituents that have those workforce skills, but we can put people back to work in some of these areas that we need people to be interested in. It's been very interesting to us that we've had a lot of people in the west end of Louisville that have gone through analytics programs free, and they have been superstars, and they've come out the other end employed with these certificates and then jumped right into artificial intelligence. And, it's fascinating to us that now they may not want to go to college, and that's fine, but now we have another pipeline for talent skill sets. And now we're moving forward with cybersecurity certificates for them. And we've been just overwhelmed with the enthusiasm and the enrollment of these folks that really would like to get into this arena.
Can I add, or I'm going to put you on the spot, Sharon, is because I think Sharon's very humble and doesn't and hasn't really emphasized all the things that she has done. And so Sharon actually leads a unit within this university called the Digital Transformation Center. Sharon, do you want to mention something about that?
Sure. So we've also built an umbrella of all types of free, it's like a portal with all of these free certificates. I'm going to put the link in because anybody can use it. any of your schools can use it. And it's got all the Google free analytics certificates. It's got all the IBM free certificates. It's got all the Microsoft free certificates, all in one portal, so that anybody, and we use it again for any of our community partners, our nonprofit partners, and we do like simple things that we've done with our school system K through 12. We did a Build-A-Bot, which was artificial intelligence, just teaching people how to do chat bots, really simple. You know, I can teach somebody how to do a chat bot in 10 minutes, but, you know, really getting them engaged from a community perspective. But it's called a Digital Transformation Center. And again, it's free. We're not capturing their email, so we're not secretly, covertly marketing to them. So there's not a hook or a crook behind it. It's really just to help more people. Again, kind of that great equalizer is how can we get them encouraged and enabled and armed with more technology skills and more, you know, life skills. We all know technology is the driving force, but also, again, it's got all kinds of technology links to that, to folks. A lot of it is instructor based. It is all online, so they have to, you know, either go to a library if they don't have the resources at home to get on the internet. But a lot of this is free and easy to incorporate into your class or as a student. I've had students just go to this link from other universities. I had one student email me and he got 24 badges, and he wasn't from the University of Louisville, but it made me so proud that, you know, he took the initiative, and actually it was one of his faculty members that encouraged him to do so, and he put those on his resume. So thank you. I'm delighted to share it and encourage you to share it with your faculty, students, staff. And again, it's not a sales pitch for the University of Louisville. We're not capturing any data on any of the pings that we ascertain from that. We're not scraping the data from that at all. Again, it's all about empowerment and sharing resources and teaching others. And that's where we've really been successful. And when Dr. Losavio was talking about, you know, how we've gotten more grants, it's because we are really truly being open-minded to share data, and you know, 1 + 1 is equaling 5 for us, because 5 equals, you know, more collaboration across the board. You know, we've got psychologists on these grants. We've got, you know, people at the School of Medicine. We have people from psychiatry. We have people from social work. We have all different types of people, mental health professionals, you know, all different types of people, because that's what's making these types of products, if you will, this type of instruction and deliverable successful. Thank you.
Dr. Stein.
Well, I will add also that, you know, one of the benefits of this program that Dr. Kerrick envisioned is that it connects also to a degree program we have, our Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership and Learning. Within there, there's a strand called IT leadership. And again, something she created. And what's the benefit of this is, think about how many people you know who have some college, but no college, but they never finished their college degree. They're out there, they're working, they may be working, let's say at a hospital. They may be doing some IT work, but not really elevated quite to the level that they have the potential for. What this program would do is they would go through the program, they would pick up the badges. The badges would actually count towards some of the degree requirements as well. So the program has this area called prior learning assessment, where they can get up to 48 credit hours of prior learning, that, as if they're assuming that they're at the right levels of learning too, but prior learning that would be attributed to their degree program. So 48 credit hours, that's more than 1/3 of the degree. So that could be transferred in. In addition to that, other credits they've been taken, they could accumulate those, and then obviously take some classes here at the University of Louisville, and then match that into a degree program. There are a lot of opportunities. So when she says that the workforce stuff, again, I think she's very modest. When her master plan is plugging in at different spots, because we all know no one comes at the same spot. We all come with differing levels, from people who say, I don't even know how to turn on a computer, to, hey, I've been doing programming through Python for the last 5 years, and I can do the following things. So and run the data in such a way that it would produce outputs that would be unbelievable. So I think those are things that we want to consider here, is that there is a range of people. With that in mind, if we go to the next slide, we have a project that we started called the C4 project. The project there is, I don't know if I can switch slides, or maybe I can.
Hold on, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's always something.
So the project is called the C4 project. It's a project that I've been leading, and it is about cybersecurity, certifications, careers, and communities. So that's where the C4 comes in. So, and it sounds very technical.
Go down.
Looks great. Thank you, Michael. Oh no, you had it. The last one. Sorry. Okay, so the project, the way it's designed, and I'll just touch upon just a few elements of the design, just so you kind of get a sense of it. What happened was the Kentucky Commission of Military Affairs and the University of Louisville, we were teaming up and trying to figure out how we serve the military. So we were looking at job prospects of industries that are growing here at the state, as well as jobs that are opening up significantly. Obviously, cyber is one of them, right? So we decided to create something in the cyber area, working with a team of individuals, including Professor Losavio from Criminal Justice, some of our colleagues over in our Speed School of Engineering, and other people from around the business school as well. So what we did was we took all those individuals and we said, hey, listen, let's try to figure something out that we can be responsive to our military population, either whether it be vets or active duty. And so what we did was we created this, we wanted to create some certificate programs or certification-based workshops, but we knew that the standard programs and the way the workshops are designed today aren't exactly what everybody needs. So we decided what we would do also is, before we did everything, let's go ahead and ask all the DoD contractors within the area, within a 4-state region, of like, what do you need? Like, what are things that you need, and what are things that you value, and what is the labor market looking like, and what are specific things that the certifications aren't necessarily addressing? Well, what we did was, after we've actually surveyed all of them and worked with everybody, is we realized that it's not going to surprise you, HR officials and representatives didn't understand the whole tech thing. Even people that were working in the tech industry. They were saying, hey, if you have CISP, we'll hire you with 0 years of experience. And some of you are probably saying, wait, you can't have CISP and 0 years of experience. It's not possible. But they didn't know that. And so what was happening is they were tagging on certifications, making requirements that they didn't realize actually don't work. So, and then they were also saying, hey, but we want them to not just know the technology, we want them to understand the business side of things, because if they don't understand what the client experience is, they don't really understand what's happening with the technology. So what we realized was we identified all the different gap areas. And then what we did was we developed modular-based programming. We also teamed up with LinkedIn Learning to help with some of the modular-based learning. Again, another great thing, working with Dr. Kerrick, she helped us with that contract with the whole university. So the whole university has access to LinkedIn Learning and a whole bunch of other things too in our university, so that every person who graduates from here has more than enough technology exposure. In any case, so we were doing this for this program, and then what we did also was we created a diagnostic test, because we realized, as we talked about in the last set of slides, is that students or learners, and again, these are a lot of them are military backgrounds. They come from different backgrounds, and they're different places of ability of what they know about technology and what they know about cybersecurity. In addition to that, not only do they know different things, their abilities are different, because what we realized is things like spatial reasoning and other aspects are more important in success in learning for the cybersecurity certifications. So we developed interventions that helped them learn. In addition to that, we worked with our trainers, are either active duty military or veterans who have a fair amount of certifications as well as exposure in training, and generally have a master's in something related into computer science or something related in a related area. But they didn't know how to teach. They didn't know how to facilitate and help the learners, knowing how to scaffold learning, how to organize assessments, and do everything else. So what we did was we teamed up with them and we trained them on sort of the aspects of learning, the psychology and dynamics of learning. So that led us then to offer a bunch of workshops. Our workshops include, we have a cyber range that we developed through our engineering program, our computer science engineering program. And in addition to that, we've been having some card hacks, so hackathons, including one that's next month, by the way. I think I can even, if you want to look at some of the information about this program, you can find it there too. And if you have people who want to sign up for the card hacks, please sign up. We already have quite a few teams, but we'd love to have more. In addition to that, if you have people that you know that just, ours are very low entry type workshops. So if you look at, maybe if we go to the next slide, the workshops that we have aren't at the highest levels. So we're talking about sometimes even things such as IT fundamentals for some people. So we're also talking Sec Plus. We do have CISP, CCNA, CH, Azure. So we have some things that are, it's a pretty wide range. And the reason why we have to do that is because, again, the people we've been getting. So in addition to that, as I said, all the people who are dealing with it are military affiliated, so they can speak to the individuals, so they can help them learn during the process by saying sometimes a military phrase that maybe actually kind of trigger a way of learning these things. Our workshops are right now being paid for by DoD. However, we're trying to come up with a self-sustaining model where we're doing things for corporate, and we're using some of the money we get from corporate to help subsidize it and pay for our supports and learning for our military connected learners. But when Michael was talking about the whole idea of democratizing education and democratizing access, this is what we're talking about. These are individuals some who are, it's maybe a sergeant first class who is coming out of the Army and says, I don't really know much about this stuff, but I think I should be doing these things, and I have a chance to work with AWS. So can you help us out? Can you help me out? And those are things that we're trying to do and trying to give them access to it. In addition to the access of just the learning, we're also trying to team them up with apprenticeships. So, and US Department of Labor approved apprenticeships, which we're designing right now in concert with the US Department of Labor. There are other universities that are part of our group right now that's trying to do this for apprenticeships. There are several universities, including University of Cincinnati, Arizona State, Purdue, and FIU. So all those institutions have also been teaming up with us, and we're trying to create some standards in the area so that we can, for apprenticeships, so that people are getting quality outputs and learning stuff. And it's not just, they're not doing back-end, grunt work. They're doing stuff that's actually going to be applicable, and they're getting jobs afterward. And that's all I have.
Well, let's see. You want to just quickly describe how this is outlined so our colleagues, if they want to try and be part of this or do it themselves, they can see where you were going.
Was that for me? Sorry.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think one of the things that we did was for you to get a hold of this and do it yourselves is one of the things is trying to work with, in my case, I worked with our Kentucky military Commission on Military Affairs. I think it's trying to figure out who your audience is. In Sharon's case, she worked with a group which was the hospital CEOs groups and some of the other hospital groups and the healthcare community. So we were targeting certain communities only because we knew that there were some vulnerabilities there. And I mean, an area that we would love to do, that I would love us to do, is work on education. But if you were looking at other areas, I will say there's quite a few other areas, including the automotive industry, which is kind of untapped right now. So if you're thinking about that, some other advanced manufacturing industries, completely untapped. And I think it's a mistake. So what you want to do is again, the government agency, that would be the corresponding group that you would want to tap into, where they would help you. Then it would be our employer groups, workforce development group for the state in our case, and then also the industries themselves, and then work together. We did everything as a group. We knew we couldn't do it unless we had all the players at the table.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
let's see. We'll go into our thing, but before, I don't want to forget this, because this is, all right, none of this is, there are a lot of challenges here. This is not fully and completely supported by a lot of faculty. What Dr. Kerrick is doing is absolutely essential to whether I think the University of Louisville is going to survive or not. But we have financial folks who are not looking at the quality of teaching, I think, for our students or the opportunities that Sharon and Jeff have outlined, that this will give them to be employed gainfully and creatively once they graduate. So this is a word of caution to you all. You will be pushing against both financial forces, but also potentially faculty forces that don't want to change anything. You have to learn this subject exactly the way I teach it, without all this frippery regarding computing. Oddly enough, the psychology department here at U of L and the philosophy department at U of L have been willing to embrace computation within their curricula because it enriches the understanding of their students of the core material. So just be aware that you might have to face those challenges when you come through. Now, this coalition, like I say, we've been hanging around here for 20 years. This coalition of departments really came together about 2015. And so we went forward on some projects dealing with NSA funding to look at bringing public safety personnel into cybersecurity careers. The idea was to increase the pool of cybersecurity professionals more broadly. But then we're also looking at how do we move this into criminal justice systems? And this is, like I say, we didn't realize how vulnerable police departments were. But we had seen before where this was integrating into other areas of criminal justice. There were problems with people in correctional institutions using their access to terminals to get around them and to get at, outside resources. Or in one case, up in Massachusetts, they actually got into the jail employment records. So they had the complete profile, social, date of birth, residential address, spouse, children, of all these people that worked in the jail. Now, that's bad on pretty much every level, especially when you get really hard cases who will then use that to blackmail jail personnel. So we thought we would at least look at this issue of local law enforcement, not the FBI, not the Secret Service, because they in effect have relatively little impact on the lives of people that we live next to. It's local law enforcement that is trained and positioned to respond, advise, and where possible, arrest people. So when we developed this program with NSA funding back in 2016, we created a sort of basic program looking first at legal issues, legal and ethical issues, because we didn't want anybody going out and committing crimes, the basic technology itself and how it functions, then an introduction to network security, then an introduction to information security overall, and we closed with computer forensics, how you can not just take this to help protect systems, but how you can now use this to investigate criminal activity. An earlier project we've done with law enforcement agencies around Kentucky was really embraced by the police department down in Paducah, Kentucky. And as the law enforcement officers saw there, every crime scene has a computer present, usually in the form of a cell phone. So this was designed to then expand that ability for their regular law enforcement mission. Now, as you notice, we had a significant enrollment of like 110 students initially. We then began to see like a 20 to 30% drop off, more or less, with each session. This was in part because these were set out over about 20 weeks. And at that time, we had not been able to receive law enforcement education credit for it. So everybody was doing this on their own time. Remember in the introduction to network security classes, one guy emailed and said, he was a detective. He said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late on getting my assignments in. I just got a homicide and we're working on that. 4 days later, he said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to drop out. We just got a second homicide we have to investigate. So they're doing this on top of all their duties, but we still had about a 30% completion rate. The idea is that once you've got law enforcement, which is embedded in the community, and most people still respect their local police, you've now got entree to schools, small businesses, and local citizens. This was the foundation we then used to get Homeland Security funding that began last year in 2020. And we've had even more people sign up, and we've begun rolling out multiple cohorts to try and build these skills out. We've also been able to get law enforcement continuing professional education credit for it, which we think will help the students. We've also received professional education credits from the Kentucky Bar Association. So now we can also train prosecutors on how to use this to help secure their operations, because everybody, down to even small businesses, are being hit by ransomware attacks, but also to secure their operations from attacks, people trying to disrupt the criminal justice process. We were able to this time do a needs assessment, which we can share with you all. But while most departments now have internal cybercrime investigative capacity, they still refer a lot out. The one thing they noted is they still need more training. And in particular, they don't have training in their initial academies. So that this is something they get as CPE later on. We feel that this would be a lot better if they started out of the box thinking in these terms. The cell phone, of course, it's going to be at every crime scene. And that's a way to improve the approaches to investigations of sort of standard crimes, murder, burglary, sexual assault. But it also applies to other areas which have become increasingly complex legally regarding cell site location information and being able to trace situations that are happening. So this is some information regarding what they found. We need to redo this and try and get more people. This is a pilot sample, but it does show there is a need for effective cybersecurity training in state and local law enforcement. We would submit that applies across the board. There was a project in Kansas that made services available to everybody. And what they found in the data was that fire marshals, wildlife and fisheries agents, they were all starting to use this because they found evidence, electronic evidence, which supported this. So I think the question for us, and I'd like your thoughts, can this work? But more so, how do we together make this work? How do we push this capacity out to each of you out in your schools and in your states to make this a safer country for us? So with that, Ms. Lauren, how would you like to deal with questions?
Sure.
Right.
So this is wonderful. It just really goes to show the great partnerships amongst different universities and institutions, especially within our CAE community. So we appreciate what you're doing and appreciate presenting today for the CAE community. So if you have any questions for Dr. Losavio and Dr. Kerrick and Dr. Sun on their team, please feel free to post your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself as well to ask your question. So we'll give it a minute for everyone to kind of get in.
Dr. Yarley, how do you see this working for Kentucky?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes, how do you see how do you see this working for, say, let's just say Kentucky, with the other schools like Murray State or University of the Cumberlands, Eastern Kentucky University?
In terms of partnership or,
Yes, yeah.
well, I think, as I said, the Kcfc was really a step to bring everyone together and share the thoughts and projects and ideas of basically building a community, a strong community in Kentucky. I'm actually part of a gathering. I don't know if Cheryl contacted you or not. It's called SIRP, Cyber Incident Response Team, which basically a lot of agencies, governments from state of Kentucky and also federal are getting involved to build something, especially with all of these forensics and cyber incident response. So it needs a kind of getting in touch with everyone, and perhaps have a meeting with all of the CAE point of contact in Kentucky, and then share the ideas and how we can build a forum for Kentucky and proceed from there. So maybe I send an email to everyone after, maybe a week or two when the classes start. And, or maybe you can do it, Dr. Michael, and see if we can get together and you take the initiative of this and we get together and discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you
Well,
can do
I
that, that
defer
would
to
be a
Sharon to
great
take the
thing.
initiative, but
Well, I'm
Uh,
just saying, it would be nice if you started from your side. And yeah.
okay. All right, good. Thank you very much. Well, how do y'all see that porting over to other states? I mean, Lauren, what do you think? Do you see, are there other states where all the CAE institutions come together?
Yeah, so, and, as you were talking, a couple things that came to mind, and Amy, she still should be on, but utilizing the hubs, we have, I think 5, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, hubs that for each region, there's, a collective of the universities by each region, that you can always, do something similar within the hubs. That would be something that I would think might be valuable and useful to utilize.
Okay. Just as a cautionary note, I can see like our NSA materials are open for everybody to use. The DHS materials require, you have to go back and ask for permission to do it. And then they have so far been fairly strict, saying it can only be used for law enforcement training.
Mm-hmm. Right, I believe it.
Yeah. Right. So we could train prosecutors, but we could not train judges. So right. we're going to revisit that, but still, yeah.
Right. So I think that might be one way to kind of have an avenue to get more institutions involved is through our CAE hubs.
Okay.
And there's actually if you visit the CAE community website, it will list the different hubs on our website.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A quick shout out to Chip Corbett and David, since apparently Chip is looking forward to being a cyber privateer. Chip, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, John Paul Jones was not a privateer. He was actually the founder of the United States Navy. He simply demonstrated that the best defense is offense, and that's his flag in the background, by the way.
All right.
From my perspective, out here in Portland, we're working also to engage with the community, but our tools are very much more simple. We're looking at dice and poker chips and board games. And the idea is that human factors are the critical element and the biggest point of failure for a lot of our cyber attacks. So with a simple board game, we could look at how we might be able to defend or help to increase the awareness of workers at power plants, electrical facilities, regular community operations to try to improve their awareness of potential defaults. And one of the interesting tricks that we would propose to use is to put out random memory sticks and cookies. And if somebody picks up a memory stick, we know that they're one of the potential vectors for entry into the system. That's it.
Right. But don't go any farther than that, because we've had students propose their cybersecurity projects were to set out those little memory sticks with an autobat file that says, you should not do this. And we said, no, you probably don't want to do that. But okay, good. Thank you, Chip. Chip, how do you see like all the many different offerings that Sharon's program has? Do you see those having relevance for what you're trying to do in your community?
Oh, absolutely. We would love to participate in some of those exercises and or collaborate with other universities, I'm sure, to help move things along. And I'm just a student, so I can't speak for all the principal investigators, but you know, collaboration is usually a great idea, and the democratization of cybersecurity is the right way to go.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Jeff, you were going to say something?
No, I was very excited by your game, and I actually want to learn more about it.
Excellent. Last call, Ghiyoung M. Did you have any comments? He's also one of our key people on our projects.
Nothing particular. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Guy. Lois, any thoughts? Because I love that name, Lois.
Yeah, Dr. Palin, she's really involved, and she's also been very involved from a Gen Cyber program standpoint. Dr. Palin, are you there?
The bane of all online meetings.
I know.
Right.
You know, Michael, I think you should be applauded for the things that you've done. You know, you're the one who brought us together, actually. So I mean, for in so many different ways, and I think that's the critical piece too, is that within our institutions, is taking that interdisciplinary lens. Your criminal justice background. Again, we had computer science engineering, we had leadership, we had entrepreneurship, we had the CIS folks, education. So like together, that actually creates a very rich experience. And I think it's hard to replicate because we all have this interest in moving this forward, and it's very rare to have the interest to have that interdisciplinary lens. So I have to say thank you, Michael, for bringing this all together.
Well, and I think in fact, I think you're exactly right, Jeff. We could not compete with the big institutions unless we collaborated like this. So, I'm sorry, Barol.
Michael, this is very interesting. Appreciate the approach and the scope. I'm sorry I have to jump to an INSA meeting in a minute, discussing interdisciplinary approaches to cybersecurity studies and intelligence gathering. Very much interesting in talking to you guys about collaborating.
Okay.
So I would be reaching out to you guys. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Sorry, I have to jump out.
All right, no, thank you very much, Barol. Let's talk. Let's talk.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments? This has been a great collaborative session today, and I think we've had 2 great presentations, so thank you so much.
Yes, and let me again say, thanks to the National Security Agency, because we would not have gotten this started without NSA funding back, 6-7 years ago. So it was really important.
Yes, indeed.